Hello, everybody. My name is Nanika Edwards, and welcome to Big People Talk. In this video, I'm going to be sharing some thoughts on my poem Noah Hark, which is about the Great Flood. And I'm assuming that most people would know about this biblical account of a person by the name of Noah, whom God commanded to build an ark or a large ship to save as many people as would have been willing to board the ship at his invitation. Nobody did except for his family. And God also sent animals to the ark quite miraculously. And so that's essentially what that biblical account is about. And in this heart-to-heart chat, so this is what this is, a heart-to-heart chat. So when I present my, different poems, in most cases, I would follow up with a discussion about the poem, just to make it easier for people to understand the poem and make sure that they can extract as much value from the pieces as possible. I know that many people are intimidated by poetry. I generally try to write in a way that's easy to understand and relate to. I use simple vocabulary, symbolism that's easy to understand. So I don't think you'll have a problem following the poem. The poem is in Creole English though. It's in the Creole English of Trinidad and Tobago, or Trini dialect, at least the island of Trinidad, I should say, because Tobago has a different accent, but it is in the Trini Creole English or Trini dialect. If the poem was difficult for you to understand, I would suggest that maybe two things. One, you could invest in the book Cote Si, Cote La, COTECI, COTELA. It's available on Amazon, and it's also available in local bookstores in Trinidad and Tobago. So if you're in Trinidad and Tobago, you could probably get that book at a local bookstore. The other thing is, I have a book called We Talk Poetry, and Noah Hark features in We Talk Poetry. There are 3 different versions of this book. There is a coloring book version. There is a version that is in only Creole English. And then there is a version that includes Creole and Standard English side by side for easy comparing, for easy comparisons. And the Standard English poems in this book maintain the rhyme scheme. So even though it's a translation, I still try to make the Standard English version enjoyable for readers. All right, so what I'm going to do now is play the poem, and you can listen, see what stands out to you. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section, and then I'm going to share my thoughts after the poem has been played. So here is the poem.
Noah Hark, by yours truly, Nanika Edwards. Noah, come and fire one with Sing and Me. What's that you say? You want me come and see? You build a boat for a big, big flood, like bush rum done in your blood? Noah boy, this is not petit carême. It ha rain now, it go ha no rain then. Friend, that thing you're building make no sense. We are living in future tense. It ha no God and we don't care. We living for now and not quite next year. Hear this, we find you real jokey for true. we feel St. Anne's is the place for you. And you can make all kind of thing. House, furniture, donkey cart, and wooden bling. Ping! You come just so and catch a vaps. And building monstrosity in caps. Why you don't make nice table and stool? Why you don't build a big house with a pool? School them little boys and them in racing paper boat. And stop talking flood and ship and float. But look boy and girl Zandoli, and look to Quenk and to Parakeet we. See? Like we seeing more double than the doubles, man. Pelt that babash in the garbage can. It go make we blind, but not like this fella here. I sure I hallucinating. I really just see two bear, mare and stallion and hippo and mountain goat. Them really just ask, where the boat? I feel this punching spike with Obia thing. I sure I seeing tattoo and giraffe and baboon king. Sing, why you really putting this bush rum boy? How I hearing two raccoons singing ahoy? But what the jail it have two gazelle coming and two sparkly kind of hummingbird humming, strumming a banjo on the back of a fox like it had more than rum on them rocks. Nah, I going home. I ain't firing one more drink. 'Cause no matter how I shut my eye and blink, wink, 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 a whole zoo making mass in my head with tiger and peacock and panda red. All of them like they coming two and two. Like this rum make me get cokey for true. Boo-hoo, Noah, I seeing hyena and cheetah and all. I feel I go hold my head and ball. Sing boy, I going home and take a nap. But for sure, just now I go be coming back. Ack! To Mapapi now cross the street. Them says Noah they come to meet. But what the jail, I going home and shut my eye. Like this mind I have like to fib and lie. Sigh. I go come back again when I wake up. Sing I go know where you're putting me cup. Noah, you're going in your boat? Just now the thing going and float? Note, I can't believe what I see, but I think you more madder than me. Sing, me ain't taking you on. I gone. That rum shop had me going mad, and now thing dropping on my head. Oh God, lad, but how the hell I only getting wet? I know this not no sweat from no fat. The sky only getting black, as if the vengeance of Moko go attack. Ack, water boulders pelting down. I can't see the ground. I go drown. Donne! Noah!
Okay, let's dive straight in, shall we? By the way, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please let me know in the comment section. So this poem has two layers, I would say, at least in my mind. You may see more, but there's a Trinity theme and then there's a Bible theme. I'll start with the Trinity theme. The Trinity theme focuses on bar culture, drinking culture, and also fete culture to some extent. More so the bar culture than the fete culture. Fete meaning party. Fete is a French word. It means party, but we use it in Creole English. In Trinidad, there's a very strong bar culture or drinking culture. And bars in Trinidad generally are not really like bars, like say in Europe or North America. They tend to be small, simple, kind of basic establishments. Maybe a little rough around the edges in some ways, but a lot of men, especially men, I guess there are women as well who tend to frequent these places, but you tend to see more men than women, I would think. I've never really been a someone who frequents bars, so I don't know too much about it, but enough to have written this poem as I did. So I wouldn't say that I was poking fun at bar culture in this poem, even though it is a funny poem. I was really using humor to highlight some serious issues. And humor is often helpful and useful in helping people feel comfortable opening up and talking about things that would ordinarily be kind of serious, maybe a little uncomfortable. So that's where the humor came in. So the poem is about bar culture, and hopefully it will open up a lot of discussion about bar culture. So I wasn't really poking fun at bar culture necessarily, because I think it's a serious issue. Because why would people frequent bars when they should be at home with their families, with their wives, you know? So it's a serious problem, and it points to some kind of emotional inadequacy or dissatisfaction, discontentment. And that's why people frequent bars. You know, alcohol is an answer for many people to many things. It's a form of escape, right? Which is not usually healthy. So that's one theme in this poem. The other thing is near the end of the poem, the person who is speaking to Noah says that he knows that the sweat that he's feeling was not any sweat from any fete. So there I was poking fun at the fete culture in Trinidad and Tobago. Trinis are party people, you know. Trinis love to lime, we love to fete, we love to party, we love to dance and get on bad. I mean, that's a typical Trini. But I think that, you know, there's a saying that your greatest strength can be your greatest weakness. And I think that one of our greatest strengths is that we are very laid back, very playful, very fun loving. And I think that that's something good. However, when playfulness and, you know, loving to have a good time and things like that become morph into hedonism, you know, living for pleasure, not thinking too deeply about life, you know, not thinking too deeply about how we enjoy ourselves, I think that then it becomes a problem. So our greatest strength, in my humble opinion, is our greatest weakness, you know, and this could be true of any culture, right? But in our case, we love to drink and we love to fete. And we see this coming through in this poem. So the first theme is a Trinity theme. The second theme is a Bible theme. This poem comes from the Bible, so obviously it has some biblical thought that went into it. So I just wanted to point out a couple of things that came to mind as I was thinking about what I wanted to share about this poem. So first of all, you know, the Bible is a very layered book. So, I mean, you could look at any portion of scripture, analyze it today, see one thing, analyze it tomorrow, see three things, analyze it at the end of the year, see 10 things, analyze it 2-3 years from now, and see all kinds of things that we wouldn't have seen in the initial instances that we would have studied those portions of scripture. So the Bible is very layered, and there's a lot woven into the fabric of all the stories, all the accounts, all of these, you know, biographies and narratives and so on. So this is what stood out to me about this poem and this account of Noah. First of all, I have to say that one of the main themes of Noah building the ark is the importance of faith. The Bible says that without faith, it's impossible to please God. And what is faith? Faith is trust mixed with action. Trust mixed with action that can be sustained. So Noah built the ark over a long period of time. I think it was probably close to 100 years, if I'm not mistaken. And he built the ark when there was no physical evidence that rain was a possibility. No one had ever seen rain. As far as I know, up until that time, the earth was watered by a mist. So people had no concept of what rain was. So you could imagine just how ridiculous Noah would have seemed to most people. And but Noah believed God, and because he believed God, he trusted God and he obeyed him when he was commanded to build the ark. He could have said no. He could have said, God, you're crazy. He could have said, I'm hearing things. He could have said, I don't feel like doing that. That's too much trouble. He could have said any number of things, but he chose to obey God. And God has given us free will and free choice. Just like he gave Adam and Eve free choice in the Garden of Eden. And so we have free choice. And Noah exercised his freedom of choice by submitting to God. The other theme in this account is the theme of patient endurance. So when we have faith, it's often tested, Sometimes God wants to see what kind of spiritual stamina we have. And Noah would have been sawing wood, cutting down wood, sawing wood, nailing wood, making plans, maybe designing drawings, all kinds of things that he would have been doing. I'm not too sure what would have gone into building an ark, but I'm sure that it was a labor-intensive and also cerebrally intensive exercise and project. It is said that I think the ark was the size of a football field or 2 football fields or something like that. Maybe somebody can put it in the comments and let me know. But to build something that big over a long period of time, I think it was at least 100 years that he was building, and in the face of ridicule and mocking from the people around him. Now, the Bible doesn't say that people mocked him, but, we can fill in the blanks using our logic. We know what people are like. Chances are they would have given Noah a very hard time, and he would have been like the entertainment of the era, Oh my gosh, that guy's so crazy. Look at what he's building. Oh my goodness, it doesn't make any sense. He's so stupid. They would have been saying all kinds of things. He's going senile, all kinds of things, right? So I think that what we see in Noah is a lesson in patient endurance. And it's an encouragement to us, especially if we're believers and we walk with God, to be patient and to endure things patiently, knowing that there will be a sure reward at the end of our season of testing. And the other thing that stands out to me is God's mercy. I think that most people would say, how could God be so cruel as to wipe everybody out? You know? But the thing is, God hates sin. I mean, we see that very clearly in this account. God hates sin, but he's also very merciful. Look at how long he took to send that flood. Him giving Noah such a huge project gave the people around him ample time to choose to obey God. And always God is hoping that even the worst of sinners will turn around and say, God, I'm so sorry, I repent. Please come into my heart. I want to follow you. I want to serve you. So God hates sin, but he's also very merciful. And a lot of times we see his mercy in the fact that he gives us time to choose him and to choose his ways and to get things right and to fix things. He's extremely patient. So we see God's mercy. We see God's mercy in the fact that, yes, he was going to destroy the earth, but he commanded Noah to build an ark as a refuge, as a source of salvation, as a lifeboat to anybody who would have said, yes, I want to be on that boat. And so, you know, God was very merciful. And Noah's ark, that story is a picture of salvation. The fact that the wages of sin is death. That's what we deserve. But God in his mercy can save us if we would just take his hand, that hand that is reaching out to us and say, that hand that is reaching out to us and saying, take it, take my hand. I'll pull you out. I'll pull you out of the danger, the mortal, eternal danger that you are in. I can pull you out as long as you take the hand that I am offering. That is what Noah's Ark is a picture of. That ark is a picture of salvation through Jesus Christ. As long as we board that ship where Jesus is the captain, we will be saved. The other thing that stood out to me about the account of Noah is that the effects of sin can be wide-reaching, you know, depending on the sin and the degree of immorality of the sin and so on. But sin doesn't just affect the person who does the sinning. And by the way, we're all sinners. We all sin, or we've all sinned. And, you know, none of us is perfect. None of us is God. But sin can have very far-reaching effects. And so look at this. I mean, yes, 2 of every animal boarded the ark, the ship, but all the other animals were killed, and they were innocent animals. They were not the ones who were making God angry. It was people. We were the ones who were making God angry, but animals suffered the consequences of the wrongdoing of mankind. So I think that's a very stark illustration of the ugliness of sin. And what is sin? Sin is missing the mark. Sin is missing God's mark, like God's standard. Sometimes we as people have a way of coming up with our own standards and pretending that they're God's standards when there really are standards. Like, we don't read the Bible, we don't study the word, we don't study God's ways. We may not study the way that God thinks, but we may think, well, I think things should be this way or that way. And then we live according to those standards when, you know, God may have very different ideas about things. So to be saved, we need to walk in righteousness and live up to the standards that God himself lays down. Those standards are almost impossible to keep without the grace of God. It is by the grace of God that we are saved, and it's also by the grace of God, his unmerited kindness, that we can also live a life of righteousness. It's not by grit. It's not by gritting our teeth and exerting fleshly effort or effort in the flesh. It's really by grace. With respect to the poem, though, specifically, I have to say that when I wrote the poem, sometime afterwards, I was thinking about it and I thought, okay, so like the person who was speaking in the poem, a lot of the people, or all of the people that Noah lived with, would have seen the animals going to the ark. Nobody could have missed that. I mean, you can't miss two elephants walking together. I mean, you can't miss that. You might miss two ants. You might miss two get a mosquito there. You might miss two ants. You might miss two beetles, but you will not miss two elephants. You will not miss two giraffes, and you will not miss certainly won't miss two lions. I promise you that. People probably went running for their lives when they saw the lions, right? But everybody sees the animals coming to the ark, and not two lions, a lion and a lioness, sorry, I should say. You see these animals coming to the ark, and nothing in you says, but this has to be an act of God. I mean, that's not normal. We may not have ever seen rain, but certainly this is a sign from heaven. And not only were the animals going to the ark, but they were going 2 by 2, right? 2 by 2, a male and a female. I mean, the fact that that could not be coincidental should not have escaped anybody. First of all, you have animals turning up at this ark, and then you have 2 of every kind of animal. And on top of that, of every kind of animal, it's a male and a female. That had to be an act of God. Noah could not have engineered that even if he had wanted to. That had to be an act of God. And I think that in today's world, we are so often hostile towards God that even when we see things that should make us take a second look and think, maybe God really is real. Maybe God really is whom he says he is. There's so many things that we overlook because God, to borrow from Al Gore's well-known book, is an inconvenient truth. And when we don't like the truth, we will use all kind of evasive tactics not to have to deal with it. But you think about it. I mean, you think about the artistic detail and intricate design of the human body as seen under a microscope. And we see these things as humans, as people, and yet we may still believe that God is a fable. We will still insist that God is a fable, that kind of detail is coincidental, that kind of detail came from a sonic boom out in the universe, and that the sonic boom, some mindless sonic boom, created this intelligent design. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Now, I don't know if everything was created and boom, everything was there, or if there was maybe some combination of evolution together with creationism. I don't know. But I find it implausible that the incredible design that you see in all matter, almost all matter, all created matter, to say that it's coincidental and arbitrary doesn't make any sense. I don't think that makes any sense. Tell me how that makes sense, please. Somebody explain to me how that could make sense. Now, boy, I have my notes all over the page, so please forgive me if I'm jumping all over the place. But, some people may say, well, the Bible is just a book of fairy tales. It's just a book of stories. These things never happened. But what I find interesting, I don't know much about it. Maybe somebody can put something in the comments if you do know a bit more than I am about to share. But I have heard that in a lot of cultures, maybe old cultures, ancient cultures, that there are stories of a great flood, some version of a story of a great flood, a cataclysmic flood of some kind, similar to the great flood that is associated with Noah. So I think that, God said that he would not leave us without evidence of the truth of his word and the fact that he is real. And I think that that may be one of them. And what's interesting too? If you agree that the stories of the Great Flood being present in cultures that are flung far apart from each other, if you feel that that is worth considering as a point of possible credibility, then we have to ask ourselves another question, like, if that was a fairy tale, if Noah's flood, if the flood that Noah and his family were saved from was a fairy tale, how is it that you could have a worldwide flood and still have animals, still have the animal kingdom alive and well today? How is that possible? It's only possible if God, in his wisdom, would have sent, as he did, 2 by 2 animals to Noah's ark, a male and a female. That's the only way that the animals could have repopulated the planet. And nothing is arbitrary about that. God is saying so many things through just, the pairing of the animals and so on, right? But certainly it is logical that if you have a worldwide flood, no land animal could ever survive that, right? Every land animal would have been wiped out. And yet we have land animals today, thousands and thousands of years later. How come? Why? Because the animals went to the ark 2 by 2, a male and a female. If it had been a male and a male, no animals today. If it had been a female and a female, no animals today. But it was a male and a female. So, I think that that's, it doesn't take a lot of logic to see. It doesn't take any stretch of the imagination to understand how that could be plausible. The other thing that stood out to me about this poem is the rain, the deluge, the rain. And I had to say, I always thought of it as God's anger. Like God was so angry that he just lashed the planet, whipped the planet with, thunderous hurricane, monsoon, typhoon weather. But, of proportions that we don't see in the modern world, right? But I was thinking about it as I was preparing for the video, and I was thinking, what if it wasn't just tears of rage and anger? Although I don't think God is a God of rage, I think he's a God of anger. Rage suggests kind of being out of control, but he is a God of intense vexation, let's say that. And so is it possible that maybe the rain was like tears, like heaven crying, God crying, not only in anger and vexation and grief, but also in great sorrow. Grief, kind of a mixture of sorrow and being upset, but is it possible that God was weeping over the planet, just weeping that man was just so rebellious that he couldn't do what would have made their maker pleased and happy? The very God who created them, the very God who gave them breath and life, they couldn't simply say thank you and showing their gratitude for having been created in the first place by obeying God. That's like if you have a child and you do everything for this child. You take care of them, you cook for them, you take them to school, you take them to their sports meets, you do everything for them as their parent, let's say. And you've been doing that even before they were born, when they were in the womb, making all kinds of plans for them, how you're going to give them a good life and all of those things. And then that child turns around and says, who is you? I ain't business with you. And I mean, God is a God of deep emotions and deep passion. I mean, if you wonder where we as people get our broad range of our broad range of emotions and feelings, we get them from God, because he made us in his image and likeness. So, I think that the flood of divine tears was part of what that flood was about. And finally, the final thing I'd like to comment on is the significance of this poem and this biblical account to me personally. So for me, I see writing poetry as me building an ark. I've been doing it seriously ever since 2001. So it's like a little over 2 decades now that I've been doing this. And I have written a lot of work, and it's been a thankless job up until this point, pretty much. I've had a few people express support or show enthusiasm about my work, or, really invest in my books and so on. The numbers have been, it's been a handful of people, to be honest. And I know that sometimes there were times when people wondered why I spent so much time writing poetry, and why I don't use my talents for something else. Just like the guy was saying in the poem, how come you don't build furniture? How come you don't build a house? How come you don't use your carpentry skills for something else? And I'm sure there are a lot of people who probably, they didn't say it to my face, but they were probably saying it behind my back. But God has often reminded me of Noah and the ark to encourage me to keep writing, to keep building, to keep sawing the wood, to keep chopping, to keep nailing, to keep hammering. And so this account, this biblical account, is very meaningful to me. And I feel like I can relate to Noah to some extent. And clearly I don't have 100 years. Noah did. I mean, in those days, he lived a long time, but 100 years is 100 years, no matter what era you're in. And I'm sure that even for Noah, 20 years must have felt like a long time, right? Probably, I don't know. But for me, 20 years, it's come and gone in a blink, but it's been a long time of labor, work, sweat and tears, a lot of tears, not a lot of tears, because I don't cry a lot, but a lot of grief, a lot of tears, a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of work, a lot of late nights. Right now it's almost 1:30 in the morning and I'm up doing this video. So I have a lot of late nights. Sometimes I work right through the morning, like, pre-midnight up until 5, 6 in the morning. Try not to do that anymore, but yeah, it happens sometimes. So it's been 2 decades of a lot of work. I enjoy poetry, so don't get me wrong. It's not that I haven't enjoyed the journey. I've enjoyed the journey, but it's been a journey of joy and sorrow, you know. And so, you know, this is a poem that I can very much relate to. And I have used my literary talent, my linguistic talent, to create poetry that is different, that is unique, and that hopefully would be an ark and a source of refuge and a source of connection to God for many, many people. That's my hope for my poetry. Some of my poetry, not all of my poetry is directly connected to God, but my work is wholesome. And even if it doesn't say anything directly about God, it is wholesome and it reflects most times the goodness of his nature and of his ways. So that is it really. And you know, I would end by simply going back to the ark. In the story, you know, we see the animals going on to this huge ship, and you know, you have to wonder what was so important about the animals in the Bible. You know, the first thing that God did when he put Adam and Eve in the garden, or when he put Adam in the garden, was to give him the task or the responsibility of naming the animals. Then, in this climactic juncture of the great flood, God sends every animal 2 by 2, maybe every animal except the dinosaurs, I don't know, but every animal 2 by 2 to the ark to be saved. Why? I don't think it was just to repopulate the earth, although that was important because animals are very important to God, and how we treat animals is very important to God. And I'm not saying that if you see a spider, you don't, you know, deal with it, but you know what I mean, right? Let's be reasonable. So, I think that animals represent the full spectrum of humanity, the full spectrum. I wrote a book called Rhyme with Reason, Noah's Ark, which is a collection of poems in which the way that animals behave represents the way that people think. And in doing that book, I really had an epiphany, and I realized that for just about any creature on the planet, I think every creature, you can find a human equivalent, especially, or a spiritual equivalent, like a spiritual personality of some kind. But most times it would be like a human. And if you were to analyze the traits of particular creatures, you could easily find human parallels to match. So I do believe that the animals going to the ark, and animals of every kind, was God painting a picture of the fact that his ark of salvation is open to anybody who wishes to find salvation therein. Anybody. Could be the howling, cackling hyena who says, "Oh my gosh, I'm really horrible. Let me get on that boat." It could be the cutest bunny rabbit that says, "Oh my gosh, I'm really cute, but not cute enough to meet God's standard." And that little bunny hops on the boat. Or it could be the stinkiest skunk. It could be the kindest giraffe. It could be the most voracious bear. It could be the gentlest lamb. It doesn't matter. We all need God's salvation. So this was a mouthful. Not all of my discussions are going to be this long, but if you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. Please give this video a thumbs up. You can find the poem Noah, Hark in my book, We Talk Poetry. As mentioned earlier, there is a coloring book version, there is an all Creole English version, and there is a version which pairs Creole English with standard English translations. I hope that you'll continue tuning in, and please feel free to share your thoughts and comments. I'm sure I didn't cover every possible thing. You may have seen other things in the poem that you may want to highlight and point out, and you can feel free to do that in the comment section. So that's it for now. Until next time, bye.